So Andrew, we're really sorry for what just happened. You were sharing, I believe, your very exciting career path with Citibank.
Okay, I would continue. Thank you. So I started as a management associate at the time. Then I went into different functional areas, whether we talk about in the product area, relationship management area, risk area, and so on. My career actually has taken me, I'm a Hong Kong native. I spent the beginning phase of my career in Hong Kong. Then I went to London as as a risk manager, covering the Middle East, Eastern Europe, Indian subcontinent, and Africa as a regional risk manager, but based in London. Then I returned to Asia, but in Thailand as the head of client coverage at the time. Then I went on to New Zealand as the CEO for Citi in New Zealand. Then I returned to Hong Kong as the regional head, in the first instance of regional head of trade for Asia Pacific. Then also the head of commercial banking for Asia Pacific. Then I had the privilege to move on to China, based in Shanghai, as the country CEO for Citi, and did it for about 8 years. Then Hong Kong is my home. Ultimately, I need to return, and I did return in 2016. Took a break, and then I joined Standard Chartered in 2018. So that's all my career, spreading over 30 years, compressed into 2 minutes. So back to you, Faye.
Thank you. Very broad coverage, whether in terms of regions and functions as well. And how about you, Ron? Would you please share with us your story?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Faye. Actually, unlike Andrew, my work experience is much more simpler. So basically, I graduated from university over 20 years ago, and I started my career with Arthur Andersen, which was one of the big 5 international accounting firms then. Now it's Big 4, as most people know it. After a couple of years with Arthur Andersen, I did my MPhil in development studies from University of Cambridge. It was in Cambridge, and I started to develop a keen interest in macroeconomics and finance. So later on, I joined Shanghai Pudong Development Bank in 2007. And I was sent to Hong Kong working as the representative for its Hong Kong representative office. So just before the webinar, I also had a chat with Andrew. Actually, he's a very seasoned banker. He used to work for Citi, and he also cooperated with Shanghai Pudong Development Bank in his early career. So basically, I helped my bank to get a full banking license from Hong Kong Monetary Authority in 2011, and since then I have worked in corporate banking department of SBD Bank Hong Kong branch. I think just 4 years ago I began to take up my current role as the head of financial institutions and began to take care of the bank's FI, we call financial institutions clients, and the public sector in Hong Kong. Yeah, that's it. Quite simple compared with Andrew's.
It's also quite extensive. So now that we know a little bit more about our guest speakers, maybe we can delve into our topic today, which is corporate and institutional banking. So Andrew, would you please share with us a bit more about this specific business line? Because obviously banking probably has the longest history among all the financial services sectors. And now it actually encapsulates a very broad range of businesses. So can you tell us what specifically are we referring to when we talk about corporate and institutional banking? And whether there's any difference between this specific business line compared to the other business lines under the broad banking term?
Yeah, well, corporate and institutional banking is a very broad term. There are many different components within corporate and institutional banking, but we all start with the client. So everything starts with the client in a lot of industries and in banking as well. So corporate and institutional banking basically refers to the areas that serve corporations including financial institutions, government entities, privately owned enterprise, multinationals, middle market clients, and commercial banking clients, and more. All the institutional clients are served by the corporate and institutional banking business. Now, within the corporate and institutional banking business, you have multiple different areas: the front office, mid office, and the back office. The front office would include the, like in my area, client coverage. We are dealing with we're the relationship management unit, serving all clients. But at the same time, there are also product areas that they deliver the products to our clients, including, for example, in financial markets, where the rates and interest rates and currencies and commodity price risk are managed, and equities risk is managed. Then you also have transaction banking services, where the more traditional, for example, trade finance will be conducted, where the cash management business is managed, where you also have where the security services is being managed. These pension funds buy stock and bonds. Somebody will need to settle for them and will provide with the reporting requirement. So that's also part of the corporate and institutional business. Then the pillars under supporting the corporate and institutional business would be a lot of functional areas. First and foremost would be the risk management area, because banking is a risk-taking business. The corporate and institutional business is a risk-taking business. We lend money, we take risk, but at the same time, we need to make sure that the risk that we take is appropriate. So that is where our risk partners would come in. Then at the same time, there are many things that the banking is a regulated entity. There are many things that banks cannot do, many things that banks will do, but in accordance with the regulations that are governing us. So we would have the compliance area. Then we also have the finance area that they work out how much money, what is our balance sheet, how much money we make, and so on. Then we also have the operations area where services are delivered, products are settled, and accounts are open. So these are broadly, there's still a lot of areas, but I just highlight some of the key areas. So you have the relationship management area, then you have the product area, you have financial markets, you have transaction banking, you also have corporate finance, structured finance, a whole host of different products supported by the middle and the back office. So I'll pause there, Faye. So this is hopefully a very brief highlight of the corporate and institutional business, what's in there for the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. It sounds like there are a lot of opportunities actually just within this sector for people with different types of expertise to explore. Mr. Fan, would you say the setting of functions under the institutional banking department with your bank is pretty much similar? And as I know, Shanghai Pudong Development Bank is a Chinese-based commercial bank. Would you say your business focus is more or less the same, or do you have some specific business focus areas that's more specific to your own bank?
Well, yes, I think Andrew has explained corporate and institutional banking very clearly. And yes, I think I myself am in typical front office role. And so the setting of the different departments in my bank are more or less the same as Standard Chartered, though our scale is much more smaller in Hong Kong. So I just take my department, for example. I've got 4 teams in my department, 3 teams taking care of the non-bank financial institution clients, and 1 team looking after banks. So they're all relationship managers. We call RMs. And there's 1 supporting team too, responsible for client services, data analysis, account opening, and some compliance issues. So I'm also in charge of the bank's custody business. So we also provide global custodial service to our clients. So unlike Andrew Standard Chartered, we do not have branch networks in Hong Kong, which means we focus on wholesale banking. That's mainly also corporate and institutional banking. To support the smooth running of our branch, so we have many different functions within the branch. So for example, legal and compliance, risk management, information technology, human resources, and of course, finance, etc. I think, as you know, banking actually is a heavily regulated industry, I think everywhere in the world. So we more or less for each bank, the settings are more or less the same. So we've got relationship management, credit risk management, client coverage, or compliance, product departments, things like that.
Thank you, Ron. So yeah, again, there's an opportunity for everyone, whether you're interested in people-facing functions or, for example, risk management, finance, or legal and compliance. So now that we have that clear, maybe we can try to imagine what it's going to be like if you're really actually working in this field. I'm going back to Andrew again. Andrew, for someone in your position, I think we're all very curious to know what a regular work day for you would be like. Would you mind sharing with us a bit about that?
Yeah, no, I would love to share with everybody. I think my regular day, depending on pre-COVID or during the COVID period, right? Like currently, I'm working from home. So I don't have all the logo behind me and so on. So let me start with on a regular day before COVID, when travel was still important. I would actually during the month I would be, because I do a regional role. So on average, I would almost like every week I would be making one trip. So not, sometimes longer, sometimes within the region, maybe go to Shanghai, maybe go to Guangzhou, but sometimes I would go as far as London or further away. So that, and then those business trip would include not only staff interaction, but client interactions as well. So I would, because it's my responsibility, right? So ultimately everything starts with the client. So I would interact with the clients and then meet up with the team. And so that was and then when I'm not on business trip, I come back to Hong Kong, then there are other regular meetings that I would attend to, some of a lot of meetings and so on, including customers in Hong Kong. Now, then during COVID, then the travel stopped, no more travel. So it would be all done by video conferences like what we are doing. My regular day actually would be normally would be I'm quite early. I like to get in. I am one of the top, first 2 or 3 people in the office normally. So by Hong Kong standards, quite early. By 7:15, I will already be in Central. So I will be in the office. So then I would catch up with news, and then I would clear up some of the emails that came through overnight. Then I think the first part of the day, the morning part, would be mostly speaking with people in my same time zone, in like the colleagues from China, from Korea, from Japan, and from Hong Kong. Then as the afternoon begins, then this is where the global meeting would take place normally. Because then when we have Europe open, then London would come in, Europe would come in. Then towards the end of the day, then the US would open. And then they would, if it is a global discussion, then we normally do that at about 6 to 7 o'clock. And then so as to accommodate our US colleagues. But so if I look at the day, the morning part would be more the local interaction, local meaning with colleagues in my same time zone, with clients in my same time zone. Then from afternoon onwards, where this is where Europe comes in, then it would be together with our colleagues in Europe. Then now obviously not every day would have the European component or the US component, but broadly, this is how the day would be spent. A lot of time would be actually with the client on mostly on specific client opportunities or client issues, client problems that we want to be able to help to solve. And because in the corporate institutional business, you cannot solve a problem single-handedly. You always need to be able to work in teams. Let's say you have a customer issue or customer opportunity, then you bring in the appropriate product partners to say, what solution, how can we help the client? Then you also bring in the different middle office and functional partners, whether compliance or risk or otherwise. Then you have a total solution for the client. It's very rare that you have one officer who is able to serve a big customer problem or a big customer opportunity all by himself or herself. You always need to be able to work in teams. So the collaboration within the region normally takes place in the morning. Doesn't mean in the afternoon we won't do it. So then the afternoon, this is when our European colleagues would come. So this is very briefly how my day would look like.
Thank you. I'm hearing a lot of team meetings, client-facing activities, and collaboration. Ron, would you say you have a similar experience? And I think more relevant to our audience, maybe you can also tell us a bit more about, for example, the daily responsibility of a more junior member on your team. Ron, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yes, just now it's okay.
Mm.
Yeah, sure. I think it's very interesting. As Andrew said, a typical day for banking staff or a banker can be quite different. I mean, before COVID-19 and now during the pandemic, it's very different. For me, I think, yes, more or less the same. Although SPD Bank, we do not have such an international presence in everywhere in the world. We've just got Hong Kong, Singapore, and London. And of course, we've got lots of branches in mainland China. Yeah, to answer your question directly, a typical day of mine, I think, is having meetings always with colleagues, with clients, of course, like anyone else, reading and writing emails every day. We have got hundreds of emails every day. So before the COVID-19, I also traveled a lot. I mainly traveled to the mainland cities in mainland China, and occasionally to Singapore and London. As for the question just raised for junior staff members, I think in my bank, most of the junior RMs, they do credit analysis, they write credit proposals, and assist senior RMs preparing pitch books, etc. Basically, I think their daily job is acting in response to our clients' requests, such as loan drawdowns, placing deposits, and giving quotations on foreign exchange, things like that. I quite enjoy my working day, actually. So basically for me, I meet at least 3 different clients every day, sometimes even during the pandemic and before the 5th wave. I had lots of meetings with clients, sometimes over a cup of coffee or over lunch. I also meet clients. So being an RM in the corporate and institutional banking, we meet and discuss with our institutional or corporate clients a lot. And I very much agree with Andrew, as he just said, the team spirit is very important because all things are completed on team basis. So only one RM cannot finish his task alone. We have to cooperate with product managers, with risk managers, with operational colleagues, things like that. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I think we just covered the very exciting part of this job where you get to travel a lot, see the world, where you get to interact with people on a daily basis, and you get to collaborate with people to solve problems and to provide the best kind of experience for your clients. But I think probably there's no job that's all rosy. I'm sure there might be also challenges and difficulties where you might encounter throughout your career path. So Andrew, would you please tell us a bit on that, whether, what kind of challenges that we may encounter and what kind of mindsets we need to adopt under these type of circumstances?
Well, I think the banking industry has gone through, in fact, a fair bit of change, and will continue to go through a fair bit of changes. I think, just like it's not different from the other industries that we all see. I think as the external environment changes, the industry will need to change with it, whether we like it or not. We would have to respond to it. But I think fundamentally, in the fundamental challenge in the banking industry is that I alluded to the fact that the risk management aspect of things is important. So how do we in the banking industry strike that particular balance between opportunity and risk while we serve our clients? I think that is a balance that we all banks will need to strike, and all employees will need to strike. We want to be supportive to the economy. We want to be supportive of our clients, but at the same time, we also need to be accountable to the depositors of the bank, right? So we have many stakeholders that we need to be accountable to. So that's the fundamental challenge over time, is that how do we in the banking industry or in the corporate and institutional business strike that balance while we continue to make sure that we serve our clients, serve the economy, and serve the different stakeholders in a prudent manner. Because we understand that somebody told me that in the banking is the mother of all industry, because a lot of industries basically are dependent on the banks. So we in the banking industry do have that responsibility, and to make sure that the judgment we make will serve the purpose of the greater community, including whether we talk about clients, including the depositors and so on. So that is, I think, when the economy goes up and down, when there are fundamental structural changes in the economy, we cannot lose sight of this particular objective. And that objective in itself is one that is not easy to strike. Sometimes we may not get it all right, So but in the long term, we want to make sure that we provide the balance. So I think that is perhaps a little abstract or philosophical. But with that, then you can then bring it down to the different challenges on a day-to-day basis. Because now some people may be of the view that there is no challenge, because they probably are biased towards one of the stakeholders. Then the decision is clear. But when you want to make sure that you provide the right balance between let's say the shareholder of the bank, the depositor, the client, the community, then that makes the challenge actually quite interesting. So that is what I would. The rest of it would, then they come down to the operating level. But the fundamental one, I still believe that it is just like what I just mentioned. Thank you, Faye.
Thank you. So finding the balance between risk and opportunity. Ron, how about you? What do you think?
Well, yes. Actually, there are always challenges in our daily work, a bit internal, within the bank, or external, dealing with our customers or clients. But that's why we are here, I think. So, for example, when we recruit people, we look for individuals who are self-driven, enjoying challenges, and committed to making positive change. So, so basically, I think to answer your question, I think the most challenging things happen within the bank. For example, you being relationship managers, you need to convince the risk managers to grant banking facilities to your client, to your corporate or institutional clients. Or sometimes you need to play a central role in coordinating between different departments, because there are, as we said, there are different departments in the bank, different functions within the bank. So be it compliance, operations, or IT, or sometimes finance. Last but not least, I think self-initiated learning is essential for successful RM. Actually, for any banking staff, I would say. We need to keep abreast of the latest developments in technology, in supervision, current affairs, and even in the world economy. So, for example, the Russia-Ukraine war has a direct impact on banking, right? We have to understand its implications and how it affects our businesses. Also, just like last year, the Chinese regulators that took some cooling measures on the giant tech firms because they all belong to the corporate clients of the bank. So we have to keep abreast of the latest developments in everything, in supervision, current affairs, technology. They're all challenges in the banking industry, in my opinion, I've seen.
Yeah, actually, thank you, Ron, for mentioning this. You mentioned that people should keep abreast of what's happening in the world. And I think Andrew earlier also mentioned that the first thing he gets to office to do is to read the world news. So I'm not sure, this is actually not on my question list, but I'm not sure if you can tell our audience what are some of the sources of information or news that you would recommend. I think this might be helpful for students. Maybe either Ron or Andrew can chip in on this.
Sorry, Faye, I didn't quite get your question. Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, we were talking about like keeping abreast of what's happening in the world. For example, following the especially financial news. What are some of the newspapers or websites that you will recommend someone like a student or a young professional to follow closely?
Well, I read a lot of news, including financial news, not necessarily just financial news. I think the more typical ones, obviously, then you have the Wall Street Journal and like. But I also pay a lot of attention to the news, in particular from two markets. I think China is definitely a market that has geopolitical significance. So, and then the US and Europe, these are the major blocks that I would be paying attention to. The media, I think I'm not fixated to any particular media, although I get the news feed from Wall Street Journal on a regular basis. Then the others, then I just Google, and when I have time, I very quickly glance through different websites, to get the news that is of interest to me.
So you will follow the market, right? That you care the most about, and that's the most important to your business.
No, I will do that, but I will do more than that, because in my view, in banking is not. You will need to know about what's going on in the economy, in financial, in the economy and the political field. But it's more than that, because we also need to know. In fact, don't be too particular about what you read. Don't just read about economy, management, or politics. Read everything that you can read. Read a lot of fun stuff, because they actually would add to the texture of you as an individual. And because ultimately, just like whether you're in banking, in my opinion, or whether you're in technology, or whether you are, ultimately you need to have a broad knowledge. You will be specialized, but you have to build it on the basis of a very broad set of knowledge you have, cutting across multiple disciplines. So you have to build up a lot of knowledge that are not related to finance, not related to the economy. So just read, and whenever you have time, just read anything, read everything, because they would only help you.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, I guess that actually touches a bit on the next question, which is the kind of qualities that you look for in the person that you will look to hire. Maybe Ron can start first with this question. Is there any, like, do you have any preference for what types of qualities, skill sets, or maybe even majors when you are hiring for your company?
Okay, thanks, Faye. Well, I think it really depends. So for experienced hires, we are constantly looking for talented individuals to join us. As a Chinese bank, we are growing very fast over the past 10 years. For fresh graduates, we do offer management training program. So I think for most Chinese banks in Hong Kong, there are some qualities that we particularly value. For instance, we would normally expect candidates to have strong language and communication skills. That is, to have good command of both English and Mandarin, to know mainland China and the Chinese economy very well. This is because most of our clients are Chinese enterprises or Chinese financial institutions in Hong Kong, in the financial market in Hong Kong. As for myself, I think I'm quite open-minded, and I always welcome fresh perspectives, and I very much value diversity. So you don't have to hold a finance or accounting or economics degree in order to work in the banking industry, I would say. Because I myself am an example, because I started my career, as I just said just now, with Arthur Andersen. When I just graduated from university, I started with Arthur Andersen as an auditor. Although my first degree was in language and literature, so I know very little about accounting or finance. After all, I would say banking business is, in essence, is people business. So you can see communication skills and the ability to learn are very important. And I have just said, the lifelong learning is so important. It's very crucial for a successful banking career. So I do not have any preference, for when I recruit, whether you have finance or economics degree, it doesn't matter. So long as you can present yourself clearly, and you have showed me that you can learn by yourself very quickly. So that's it. That's qualities I would emphasize, actually. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. What about you, Andrew? What do you look for in someone you hire, other than reads a lot?
Yeah, I agree with Ban Zhong. I think you don't have to have a finance or business management degree to get into banking. In fact, the banks go there to recruit because those who study there are more inclined to join banks. Those who are in social science or history probably are not inclined to join banks. So that's why the banks go to the business school to recruit. But I think from a candidate perspective, you don't have to, because one of my supervisors in the old days, she got a degree in music, and she's a music graduate. She did very well. She was my boss, and so I think so. With that said, I think there are a few areas that I will highlight to the audience. I think number one, communication skill is very important. It is very important. The ability to communicate, whether in a very succinct and concise manner, your language ability, your English, your Putonghua, and also your Cantonese, those are very important, I think. Now, banking is a people business, so the ability to interact with others, interpersonal skill, ability to work in teams is very important. We are not looking at all the technical skills, because a lot of big institutions, when you join them, they have the training program for you. That even if you have never done accounting, then in Standard Chartered, we will give you accounting training as part of the entry-level training. So it's more about the individual. One thing I do want to highlight to this group is that now I'm making an assumption here. Many of you are probably still in college, and then you will be looking for summer internship. Now, by the way, we do hire summer interns in Standard Chartered. Watch out for the website. I understand the question. We do, and but having said that, the opportunities are everywhere. I remember I was hiring in the old days for management associate. I recruited somebody over who had an experience in just managing a group of direct sales, part-time direct sales people. They're housewives, and she managed them for the summer. I hired her rather than somebody who had an internship with McKinsey. The reason for that was that particular individual was able to tell me the leadership that she provided to the team in selling detergents. And she was very proud with what she did in that summer. Not with any big multinationals, but with managing a team of 10 housewives doing direct sales. So I thought that was very impressive, right? Opportunities everywhere, the ability to demonstrate that you really have put in the effort, and you need to be able to demonstrate that you have put in the effort and be different from everyone else. That is very key. That would be the differentiating factor, in my opinion. When I look for quality, that's the type of quality that that a lot of people would be looking for, not just me. It's not about the business card, the brand that you have been associated with. It's about what you actually have done that makes you different. So, Faye, I'll pause there. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That's very interesting. And I hope our audience is marking this down. And before we get to the Q&A, I think our last question will be really worth taking notes for, which is career advice. So, Ron, what kind of advice would you give to our audience who are most likely students at school, probably whether studying business or not? What kind of advice would you give for someone who's looking into breaking into corporate and institutional banking? Okay, Faye.
I would say corporate and institutional banking is fun and challenging as well, of course. You have a very sense of you have a sense of achievement if you are devoted to it. For students wishing to land a job in this particular field, I would suggest a couple of important qualities that we always value and we always look for. That is passion for lifelong learning, effective cross-cultural communication, also having a fine eye for detail, and last but not least, being ethical. That is to have high moral standards, because there are many temptations in daily work. Sometimes it's insulting information, things like that. So you need to be very ethical. These are the few advices or important qualities that I would emphasize.
Thank you. Andrew?
Yeah, I have a couple. I think, well, number one is that regardless as to what everyone else is saying, right, you got to do what you like. So it's very basic, very simple, but it's easier said than done, because you would be tempted by the business card or by the compensation and so on. But ultimately, in the journey, in my opinion, is still to do what you have a passion for. That is the ticket to ensure that you are on the right path. To be on the right path, then it's still not there yet. You need to be able to do it better than everyone else. Right? So to be able to do it better than everyone else, I think my advice to the group would be, there are times when a lot of things they don't really matter at that point in time, whether we do it or we don't do it. If we consistently choose to do it, on cases that are 50-50, doesn't matter whether we do it or we don't do it at that point in time. If we consistently choose to just roll up our sleeves and get it done, then I can assure you, over a period of time, you would outperform everyone else. You won't notice it, but you will outperform everyone else. It's not about intelligence, right? It's about discipline. It's about effort. So 50-50 cases, whether you do it, you don't do it, at that point, doesn't matter. If you choose to do it consistently, you would outperform everybody. So that's my 2 cents.
It's like a compound effect of your efforts. Okay, so let's see what questions our audience have for the speakers. I'll just go through it by order. So this is one from Cecilia that goes, according to Andrew and Ron, their daily routine mostly related to interaction with clients. What kind of soft skills would be critical to new joiners that will make them, that will help them progress the corporate ladder? And I think this is for both Andrew and Ron.
Well, maybe I'll take a yeah, I'll go first. If your objective is to go up the corporate ladder, chances are you won't go very far. I'm sorry to say that, right? If the objective is to do it well, be a good team player, then people would notice it. Because I think at the entry level, or whoever joins an organization, you do need to have that level of quiet confidence. You don't need to be out to impress anybody. You just sit there, you are at ease with the environment, at ease with yourself. Try to be a team player. People would notice it. And at the same time, you're willing to take on that responsibility. Not because you really want to, not because I want to get a bigger raise. It will come. Not because you want to say, I want to be the CEO, but you want to be CEO of the bank by the time I'm 35 years old. So ultimately those things would come. You need to do that with the right objective. People would know that. People know that. Yeah, a lot of people in a lot of in the big organizations, they have been working with a lot of people from different walks of life and different age group. So you need to be, I think, just focus on try to do a good job, be part of the organization, be part of it. Just like, because after you work, you would probably see your colleagues more often than you would see your family members. Because you spend 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours in the office during business days. You will see them more often than you will see your family members. So you would need to be able to, really get engaged, get committed to the firm. Then you will do a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Ron, would you have anything to add?
Well, yes, actually, I think, especially for new joiners, I think the most important quality or the attitude is being down to earth. Down to earth is very important because it's for many fresh graduates, they all graduate from very prestigious universities, and they would have high ambitions. When you join a new bank, or when you join a new company or bank, you need to be down to earth. And secondly, I think you need to try to do more than you are requested. Don't mind say how much things I have done compared with others. So the more things you do and the more questions you ask, finally you will benefit from that. That's my simple advice.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm seeing more questions coming in, and I'm just going to combine a few. I think there are quite a few about getting internships, and particularly on how to make themselves stand out during the application of an internship, especially in interviews. Maybe Andrew would like to go first?
Yeah, I think maybe Ron can go first. I want to think it through a little first.
Okay, I can see some questions here. So which question do you specifically want me to answer?
I think there's quite a few about, for example, how to apply for an internship at your company, and also when they get to for example, I think these are very practical questions. Like when they get to the interview stage, how do they make them stand out?
Okay, let me just try to answer a couple of. I've noticed one anonymous attendee saying, do you think students without finance-related internships before applying to your company will be disadvantaged? I would say, yeah, maybe a little bit. Because normally, when financial institutions or when banks recruit the HR officers or the recruiting managers, they prefer someone who already have internship with financial institutions, because this can show they are very they are really interested in this field. If you have if the candidate has non-finance related internships before applying, how can you prove that you have a keen interest in banking and finance? Yeah, that's my short answer about this question. The other one, how this CV can attract your attention. Yeah, I've seen many CVs every year, and I think well, for fresh graduates, normally I've just have a look at say which university they graduate from, and what kind of internships they have attended. And any specific projects they have done, things like that. I think these are a few common points that I look for when I have looked at when I read shortlist CVs.
Thank you.
No.
Yes,
Now,
Stephen.
in our case, I think the same applies. Similar to what Fan Zhong said. Although practically, if you are in the finance or business management field, it's easier, because this is where the banks would target you are the target audience, right? Not to say that if you study history, if you study music, you're out of it, but just that they are the history, the non-business related students are more dispersed. They're more difficult to reach in an effective manner. So I think if you are interested, you could go to the website of the banks. That we all put it on the website, or go to, if you are a college student, go to the placement office, focus on that, and then just apply. The only way to make sure that you won't get an opportunity is that you don't apply. So that is so that's why I see one of the question is that use as an example, right? Consistently do it or don't do it. This is one example. Just do it. You never know. Just send it in. You think it doesn't make a difference. Just send it in. You never know. As I said, one of my supervisors at the time was studying music. In fact, the one who hired me into banking, he got a PhD in nuclear physics. He didn't study banking. He didn't study business. So that's it. So I think now obviously a lot of banks would recruit interns. Now interns are I can share with you. I think in Standard Chartered, of all our, what we call them international graduates, the equivalent, some banks would call it management associate and so on. That's the same executive program. 60% of our recruits actually came through from our summer intern, because we have an opportunity to observe them. So we actually see them on the job, the attitude, the ability, so we hire out of all the international graduates we recruit every year, 60% came through from summer intern. So you should, for those who are interested, by all means, check out our website and the others, pay attention to it, and other banks as well. Then the only thing that you would make sure you do not get an opportunity is if you do not apply. Just apply. So.
Thank you, Andrew. So conscious of time, I do see two more questions, but I think what we have said basically covers the essence of both of the questions. So I think that will bring us to the end of this webinar. So I would like to thank Andrew and Ron again for joining us and for having this very open discussion. I think I'm sure our audience will find it very helpful, and I'm sure they will have learned as much as I have. And I would also like to thank our audience for being with us today. And before you go, I would like to invite you to provide us some feedback by filling in this pop-up survey. Thank you very much, and please stay tuned to more of the FSDC's Talent Amplifier Program events. Thank you.
Thank you, Fei.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, Euron.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Fei. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Leave the hall.